Evening, Saturday, news, blitz, in addition for your breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Doesn't matter. It's just the weekend, and we have a brief news release. Let's go. We'll breeze through it. And let's start with fresh news. As you remember, a couple of days ago, the main fight of the UFC tournament on April 6th got cancelled. It was Fight Night, which was supposed to be headlined by Marvin Vettori and Brendan Allen, top middleweights. Vettori just started shooting down at Adesanya, claiming he wouldn't come back, and if he did, he'd lose to everyone in the top 5. And right after that, Marvin got injured, dropped out, and the matchmakers rushed to find a replacement, which they did. It's going to be a rematch between, again, top middleweights. Brendan Allen, who now has 6 consecutive UFC wins, remains on the card. He still headlines the tournament and will fight a well-known opponent to him on short notice. This is the man who last defeated Brendan Allen. It's Chris Curtis. It was just less than 2.5 years ago. Curtis had just signed with the UFC, knocked out House, and on short notice, jumped in to fight Allen again and took it. And he knocked out Allen too, being a serious underdog. And here's the rematch, where Chris Curtis will again be without a full camp. An amusing coincidence of circumstances, and ideally, both are interested in this fight, because Brendan Allen clearly wants to cover up that old defeat, and Chris Curtis now can get just an insane rise in the top, because Curtis is still at the very end. The tail of the top 15, he's 14th, and Brendan Allen, during this time, has risen very well. He's almost in the top 5, 6th in the rankings, so for Curtis, it's a huge opportunity. But again, without a full camp, and we'll continue with new fights. Friends, UFC 301. This Brazilian tournament is scheduled for May 4th, slowly filling up with fights, and honestly, I have a feeling that after the fat UFC 299, very decent UFC 298, we are possibly waiting for the worst numbered tournament of the last decade, and I'm not joking. This card will be assembled from ant stakes. Pardon my French, sensitive fans. Okay, let's take a look at a decent fight here. For example, Michel Pereira against Mahmoud Muradov. This is from the good fights, so to speak. Muradov just renewed his contract with the UFC, but the question is different there. Michel Pereira is on a 7-fight winning streak. He should be trying to break into the top. They should give him a ranked opponent. I think they continue to test him like this and give him a conditional Muradov. But Muradov can try to grab Pereira's hype here in the star fights. There's Kowalkiewicz against Lucinda, but you're probably not interested in that. And another good fight, Elvis Brenner against Makbek Orobai. This is more interesting. Brenner is that crazy eternal underdog from Oliveira's team, who turned out to be quite a wild fighter. And Orobai in his debut just crushed poor Medic, a mean guy. And the cherry on top is the fight you've been waiting for so long. Alexander Pantoja against Steve Erceg. And at this point, you're probably wondering, who the hell is Erceg? And why did I decide you were waiting for this? Well, guys, this is natural humor. Because nobody in the world knew about the existence of Erceg, and let alone, nobody was waiting for his fight with Pant. And Erceg, 3 fights in the UFC. Yes, he won all his opponents, but at the same time, he can't be called some kind of killer. A couple of wins by decisions. Out of these 3 fights, he's the 10th in the rankings. And it's pretty strange that the 10th in the top now gets a title fight. I don't know. He just signed up, hasn't shown himself yet. He's still an absolute no-name. And again, the 10th in the top. Why does he get a title shot? I don't understand. But there were, of course, a couple of out-of-the-ordinary situations in UFC history. For example, there was Henderson fighting for the belt in his old age against Bisping from the bottom of the top. But again, they had a story there. It was a rematch, and Hendo, in general, is a legend. And here, well, honestly, it's kind of a hack. Absolutely 100% concentrated head and further the funniest. Pantoja against Erceg. This is the main fight of the evening, and apparently, there will be no other title fights in the card. I don't know, but the main fight of the evening. These flyweights, one of whom is completely unknown to anyone. Live with it. Friends, just live with it. And the tournament. Why they didn't give the title shot to Mokaev, I also don't know. Mohamed Mokaev is indignant, says that he, of course, respects both Pantoja and Erceg, but doesn't understand why he wasn't even offered this fight. If he has twice as many finishes as Erceg has fights in the UFC, and Mokaev reminded that he never missed fights, didn't pull out of fights, didn't fail weigh-ins, didn't let down the organization, but he doesn't understand why the UFC acted this way, calls it politics, and now challenges Brandon Royval, the #1 in the division. He wants to fight with Royval, apparently in Great Britain. And we continue, yes, faster. John Jones unexpectedly met with Tom Aspinall, and they had beef. and Jones didn't like that Aspinall constantly called him out for a fight and asked all sorts of questions. So Tom broke through to the stand where Jones was at some public event, and Aspinall immediately said that he just stopped by to say hello. Of course, the guys talk there in general phrases, like, glad to meet you, glad to see you, good luck to you and everything, and good luck to you, but the tension in the air was felt. Aspinall wanted to casually put his hand on Jones's shoulder. Jones instantly brushed it off. He didn't like it, apparently. He did it so that Tom Aspinall wouldn't be able to do what he once did to Pavlovich. Naturally, this is also a joke. Although the meme was good on this topic at the time, it's a pity, of course, that most likely they will never fight each other. And by the way, Aspinall told that he was really going to be matched with Alex Pereira, because there was an assumption that Pereira was interested in moving up to heavyweight. So the UFC tried to arrange this fight, and Tom Aspinall was up for it. But, as Tom says, he wanted this fight much more than Alex Pereira. And Pereira eventually decided not to mess with the heavyweight, so the fight didn't happen. And they could have headlined UFC 300. These were not just rumors.